This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Total Red Man has ever done something like this to me! It's, time!
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the dregs of humanity!
Episode 151, Submission 1330. The Nerd. The Nerd was an unsold pilot produced by NBC for the 1989-1990 season.
Hold on, I'm getting up and dancing. Hold on.
Are we all gonna get up and dance? Come on, everybody get up! Come on!
All right. There was some mad tambourine action there.
Can I just say something here?
What?
That theme song and that opening sequence is a bop.
It is, but it's like, what the F?
Yes. Yes, it is very much what the F. It's like, okay, and let me paint you a picture here. Here are two people, doing 1-2 step, just build a flow, And then comes this nerd-looking guy with the pocket protector, short-sleeved, white, button-down, press-on T-shirt, and then he just starts doing this crazy tambourine action here, and everybody's joining in on it, and they're doing it through the kitchen, then it's back into the living room, and then they lead him out the door. He's about to follow him. Nope, he closes the door right behind him.
Oh, and also, you made an observation last week, which I do believe is true. I took a look at it a few times. Sometime in the opening sequence, the nerd loses his pocket protector.
Oh.
Yeah.
But might have fallen out, or maybe it was just bad
No,
continuity.
he wasn't dancing that hard.
Yeah, there were a couple times it looked like it was ready to pop out. So it may have fallen out. It may have been a bad continuity error, but yes, it did happen.
Yeah. Well, this is based on a famous play.
I think we need to put an asterisk in there after the word famous. Yeah, I don't think it's that famous.
It is a known play.
Well, okay. The thing is, it
was on Broadway, guys.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Okay, but I mean, if you look at like the grand scheme of things, how many TV shows have been done that were based on a play? Okay, two come to mind immediately. One really good, one not so good. The good one is The Odd Couple, and all of its later versions.
But technically, it's more based on the movie, the show.
But again, it's a play, so
okay.
We'll consider it. But then the other one that came to mind, and we talked about it last year. I think it was like episode 61. Primetime starts at 7:30. You Can't Take It With You.
Oh, with Harry Morgan.
Yep.
Yes.
Wasn't the Paul Lynch show also based on a play?
It was based on Howie.
So that's a third one.
Yeah, you see, I was in the hospital then.
Okay.
All right. So, we have talked or are going to talk about 3 TV shows that were based on stage plays. Well, more like 2.5 and this would be another one because The Nerd was based on a stage play by
Larry Shue.
Larry Shue.
Yeah. No relation, I believe, to Elizabeth Shue.
Or Andrew Shue.
Or a really big shoe. I'm sorry, that was my Ed Sullivan. Sorry.
That's fine. Okay, so the Nerd was originally set in 1979, although it premiered on Broadway in 1981. So when it was a play, it was current for that era. You know, taking the whole fact that 79 and 81 are a different animal from when this pilot was produced in 1989.
Yeah, well, the story of this play is Willem Cubbert, an unassuming young architect who is landlords to friends Tansy and Axel. Tansy is a smart, attractive woman with a mutual but unconsummated attraction to Willem. She is determined to leave in order to pursue a career in television meteorology in Washington, D.C. Axel is a smart aleck drama critic who was once engaged briefly to Tansy. The three of them are all good friends. Axel and Tansy are present when Willem, during a house party, becomes host to an unexpected house guest named Rick Stedman, who had saved Willem's life in Vietnam. And all sorts of crazy shenanigans happen.
And really, that's almost the pilot in a nutshell right there, or at least like the first, 8 minutes.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. In the pilot, the character of Axel is not in the pilot at all. It's just Tansy and Willem. And in this pilot, I believe Willem is married to Tansy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're newlyweds, I think.
Yeah. And there is also another character who's not in the pilot that was in the play that I'll mention when we get to it. But also there is a big twist in the play that I will wait for the end to talk about.
So in the play, Tansy and Axel become really good friends with this guy, this Rick Stedman guy who, how can I put this lightly? He's not the most nimblest character.
No.
He's not the most debonair character.
Yeah, he doesn't have many social graces.
He's a nerd.
He's a nerd. And not like the cool nerd of today.
Not like the cool nerds like Greg or Mike or myself.
I wouldn't classify myself as a nerd. I'd classify myself as a geek.
I would also classify myself as geek, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm such a geek, Brian Alvarez would make fun of me for being a geek.
Geeks are awesome, by the way.
Yeah, screw you, Brian.
Okay, so much of the play centers around Axel trying to get rid of Rick.
With no success whatsoever.
None whatsoever. So, Willem, Tansy, and Axel have a Terre Haute dinner for Rick. And, by the way, this party is also for a client named Warnock Walgrave, for whom he is designing a hotel.
Which is Willem.
Willem's designing a hotel for Warnock Walgrave. And they're trying to do everything in their power to get Rick to leave before Walgrave shows up. For dinner, they have a traditional Terre Haute dinner, which is warm water and cottage cheese. And then overhearing that Rick is afraid of pigs, Willems decides that he turns into a pig when the moon is full, as it is when the play is going on. They make up this pagan ritual that in order for Willem to stay a man, everybody has to throw cottage cheese out the window. And who comes in covered in cottage cheese? Walgrave. Suffice it to say, Willem's not going to be making a hotel for him anytime soon.
Yeah. But there is one part in the play, as I mentioned, that we'll save for the end. That's the twist of the play. Now, the play ran on Broadway for 441 performances from March 22nd, 1987 to April 10th, 1988, starring, oh my God, can you believe this, Mark Hamill, and was directed by Charles Nelson Riley.
I would believe both of those things.
Yes. In the 1987 production, the action diverged from the play in places, such as Robert Joy playing the character of Rick, squawking like a chicken when the guests at Willem's party began to eat deviled eggs, and later spraying Ready Whip into his mouth.
Yep, that sounds like something a nerd would do.
Yeah.
Especially a nerd like Rick Stedman. But they didn't have Easy Cheese in 1979, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Well, he was doing Ready Whip.
Oh, yeah, they did have Ready Whip in 1979. They did? They
Yeah.
did.
Yes.
I don't know why I was thinking of Easy Cheese. Anyway, so what does Terre Haute Dinner in 1979 have to do with a pilot from 1989, Greg?
I don't know. For some reason, NBC thought this would be a great idea for a series. Let's adapt it. Because it was a hit on Broadway.
Well, it did pretty good for itself. I wouldn't say it was a hit, but it did really well for itself.
I mean, it ran for almost a year.
Yeah.
A little over a year, yeah.
But unfortunately, you don't have Mark Hamill or Charles Nelson Riley involved in this.
Not the pilot, no.
But they did get Robert Joy from the play in the role, reprising it as Rick Steadman.
Who else was in the pilot besides Rick Steadman? Because I know the cast had, as the opening said, John Dye and Harley Jane Kozak. John Dye would be best known for his role as Andrew, the Angel of Death, in Touched by an Angel, and Harley Jane Kozak would be known...
She was on Santa Barbara!
Yes, she was. She was also in When Harry Met Sally, Parenthood, and Arachnophobia.
And by Parenthood, we mean the
movie. Not
the movie.
Not either TV show.
Not either TV show. The original movie by Ron Howard.
By the way, one of the versions of that show is on the list.
And it's not the current one.
It's the one with Leonardo DiCaprio in it.
Yeah.
Why are we whispering? All right, so we talked about Rick Steadman, who is the nerd, and let's walk everybody through the pilot, shall we?
Yeah.
It's not going to be a very long walk, unfortunately.
It's a pilot, it never is.
No. Thankfully. So in this pilot, Willem, last name is Boyd.
Boyd?
Willem Boyd.
Okay.
And they're married, so it's Tansy Boyd, too.
Yeah.
And so what happens is when the pilot begins, you see Tansy and Willem setting up a dinner party, and the guests are Mr. and Mrs. Walgrave.
Yes.
Except in this case, Mr. and Walgrave comes off more as the boss to Willem Boyd than like a family friend.
Yes. And playing Mr. Walgrave is a legendary actor, M. Emmett Walsh.
Oh,
and
God.
Chico, do you want to list the IMDb filmography of Mr.
Oh, God. We'd be here all day if we talked about everything he's been in. Here's a bit of the back of his baseball card. The Jerk, Ordinary People, Blade Runner, The Iron Giant. Do we want to mention Wild Wild West from 1999 or no?
No.
Now, how about we mention something even more recent? How about Knives Out?
Oh, yes!
Oh, yeah!
Yes!
And you know who else was in Knives Out, guys?
Daniel Craig.
Yeah, Daniel Craig, but America's Ass was in Knives Out.
Oh, yeah. The man who made corded sweaters hip again.
Yeah. Botulism.
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 He was in Mystery Date.
Oh, that is true. Chris Evans was in Mystery Date.
He was America's Ass from the get-go. But yeah, he played Mr. Prufrock on Knives Out.
Yeah. Man, he was in that, and Christopher Plummer.
Man, I can't. All I can say is I can't wait for the sequel.
Yeah. And by the way, we'll be talking about Christopher Plummer, R.I.P. in May. But let's get back to this pilot.
Yes.
So, Willem and Tansy, they're preparing for the dinner with Mr. Walgrave when there's a phone call that Tansy picks up, and it's from a guy named Rick Steadman.
And Willem didn't know it was Rick Steadman until he had to say the name a few times. Do you know what that was? That was Rick Steadman!
Yeah. Now, in the play, Rick Steadman saved Willem's life in Vietnam.
Yes.
But remember, this is 1989.
Mm-hmm.
The end of the Vietnam War would be like 14 years earlier. So it wouldn't make sense for this pilot in 1989 if he saved his life in Vietnam. So in this case, in the pilot, he saves his life in a fire.
Yeah, which, you could place in any era.
You could place it in any era. So he was unconscious in the fire. Rick Steadman found him. So Willem wakes up in the hospital. Rick Steadman had already left, but he gave his name to the person at the hospital. And Willem wrote a letter to Rick thanking him for saving his life and said, there's anything you want, anything you can do, you can come to my house at any time, or you can, hey, anything for the guy who saved my life. Am I right?
Yeah,
right?
There's no amount of money that you can repay Rick Steadman for saving his life. And he also said, if you need a place to stay or whatever, just let me know. Come on over. You saved my life.
Yep.
Well, guess who decided to take advantage of that right as this dinner party was starting?
Rick Steadman.
Hi, Rick Steadman.
Yeah. Rick Steadman.
Now, I want to mention, in the play, Mr. Walgrave and his wife are with their son. By the way, we didn't mention in the taping that Mrs. Walgrave is played by actress Toni Sawyer, who is a perennial that lady from That Thing. She's been on many shows over the years as a guest spot. She's been on shows like Family Ties, The Dukes of Hazzard, Three's Company, The A-Team, The Golden Girls, Seinfeld, and even recent shows like, for example, NCIS and Criminal Minds. And she's been working recently as of 2021. She's in something called When the Moon Was Twice as Big. But in the pilot, for whatever reason, Mr. and Mrs. Walgrave's son is not in the pilot. So they write him out by saying he's locked in the car. He doesn't want to get out of the car to be at this party.
Isn't he coming?
No.
You give him the 20?
He wants 50.
What? You little bloodsucker! I'll see you rot in hell first!
It's so easy to just say, I'm looking at Walgrave. He's old enough to have a son in the forces.
Oh,
That is-
absolutely.
He could have easily said, he's off somewhere making the world safe for democracy or something.
Or he's at college or something.
Yeah, but locked in a car? That's just lazy writing.
It is. Or just not mention he has a son at all.
Yeah, you don't have to mention that.
Were they angry that people that were fans of the play would wonder why his son wasn't in it?
Well, people who regularly go to plays wouldn't necessarily be watching a pilot.
I wonder if they just did it for the sake of completeness.
Yeah, but there was another character who was in the play that wasn't in this.
Yeah, Axel wasn't in this. In fact, you could say that the pilot was a very minimalist version of the play. Very minimalist.
Basically.
I don't think Willem and Tansy ever leave their house.
No, they never leave the house during this.
No, this is entirely at the house, yes.
Yeah, this is basically, they're trying to redo Barney Miller or something with a nerd.
Yeah. So, Rick is already in the house. He's talking to Mr. Walgrave. And, we'll just play the clip right here.
Whoa, hey, come on in.
Who is this man?
Well, I don't know, Willem. I thought he was your friend.
I'm not Willem.
Now you tell us. Who are you?
Rick Steadman.
You're Rick Steadman?
No, you are.
Well, that's what I thought. I was going to say.
Rick, it's me, Willem Boyd.
Oh, right. Well, I didn't think there'd be more than one Rick Steadman.
Everybody, this is the man who saved my life.
It's not that common of a name, you know.
He went into a burning building. The flames were shooting.
I don't think I've ever even heard of another Rick Steadman.
You guys, we are in the presence here of a real-life, honest-to-God hero.
I gotta be honest with Rick. It is not a common name, Rick Steadman.
No one... No. Do you know a Rick Steadman?
No.
I don't know a Rick Steadman. Do you know a Rick Steadman, Mike?
I do not know any Rick Steadmans.
Well, one other thing I'm noticing on this is that there is a place seating for 5. I'm guess. You know what? His son. That was supposed to be the 5th one.
Yes.
Right, you got it.
Now it all comes together. But you really have to think about it. I mean, really have to think about it.
But hey, now we have enough seating for both Boyds, both Walgraves, and a random Rick Steadman.
A wild Rick Steadman appears.
That's one way of describing Rick Steadman.
A wild Rick Steadman? Huh, apparently not wild enough. Or maybe too wild, I don't know.
So yeah, the entirety of the pilot, more or less, is the dinner party. It doesn't go very far into the play, as it were. It's just the dinner party, and then after they have dinner, then they play some games.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't go into the they don't like go over like the whole dinner party. I mean, they don't do the whole I turned into a pig sort of situation.
No, they don't.
It's the entire dinner scene condensed into 20 minutes.
Right. So yeah, the pilot is the dinner scene, more or less. Plus, like I said, they do some games, and I don't know what was going on there. But and the thing is, Rick Steadman, maybe because he's out of the loop, maybe because he's not really friends with anybody else at this dinner party, is sort of like the black sheep of the party.
Oh, that's one way of putting it.
Well, he was. I mean, he sort of ruined the one game that they played in the pilot, which is one of those like, yeah, I see something that begins with an A, then a B, then a C, then a D, and he sort of ruined it once they got to, I believe it would have been F, or E, since he was the fifth person.
Yeah, he was the fifth person, so it would be an E.
Yeah. And he sort of ruined it by saying something that didn't begin with an E, and everybody's like, well, don't you see what we're doing? We went A, B, C, D. You're supposed to come up with an E, and E sort of was oblivious to all that. Again, very bizarre.
He says, I went on a trip and I brought an apple, a basket, some candles, a duck, and a map of the area. You know what? Play it right now.
The first person says, I went on a trip and I brought, and then he says something that goes with an A. Like it could be an apple, an ant.
Oh, it doesn't have to be an apple?
Tansy. No, it could be anything.
Well, I'll give it a whirl. Let me see. I went on a trip and I brought an apple.
Hey, I know this game. I used to play with Chips. Chips? Well, he was my best friend. So, hey, it's your turn. I know that. I went on a trip and I brought an apple and a basket.
I went on a trip and I took an apple, a basket, and a candlestick.
You brought a candlestick. You didn't take a candlestick.
Not yet.
I went on a trip and I brought an apple and a basket and a candlestick and a duck. Okay, Rick?
Okay. All right. I went on a trip and I brought an apple, a basket, a candlestick, a duck, and a map of the area. Your turn, go. That's it, he loses.
No, Rick, you're supposed to say something that begins with an E.
Huh?
A, B, C, I had D, E.
Oh, we never played that way. We always just, we just named things we'd really take on a trip. Too bad.
Hey! Oh, no. Why doesn't Rick do it his way, and we'll just keep on the way we were going, okay?
All right.
Good.
Great. Okay.
I'll do it. I went on a trip and I brought an apple, a basket, a candlestick, a duck, a map of the area, and a flagpole.
A flagpole? Well, on a trip? Okay.
Mr. Walgrave, it's...
Yeah. I went on a trip and I brought an apple, a basket, a candlestick, a duck, a map of the area, a flagpole, and a gun.
I went on a trip and I took an apple, a basket, a candlestick.
Rick?
And
Rick, what are you doing?
Well, maybe you guys can remember all these, but I sure can't.
I I went on a trip, and I took an apple and a basket. I know, but...
What are we doing? I mean, what the hell's the point if he's going to write them down?
Absolutely. So why don't we just not play this?
Yes, in fact, now would be a good time for you guys to talk.
Rick.
This is sad. That was sad to watch.
It was.
That was really sad to watch.
And it wasn't really even that funny.
No.
No, it wasn't.
And talking about the pilot as a whole, the funniest thing on the pilot was the opening credits.
Yeah.
It's not saying much.
Yeah, the thing of it is, if you were to make a judgment call up on the opening credits, then you think you would be in for a really good time with these three and that they would be friends and stuff. When the whole thing, the whole dinner party, you kind of get the opposite idea, you know?
And the thing is, when I originally submitted this last year during our original pilot month, I was submitting it based solely on the opening credits.
Yes! Because when you submitted this to me on the opening credits, I'm like, what the hell is this? I thought this would be fun.
And also, we need to cover this the next pilot month, which is here. But yeah, this one was...
Let's just say we have a whole lot of ideas for the next pilot month.
Yeah.
It would be fun if I were to find the unsold Sailor Moon pilot for pilot month, but that seems to be like somewhere in the wind. Although I'm pretty sure somebody in the universe has a copy of that.
But hey, we're getting What's Alan Watching with Cord and Nimic next year, so...
There you go.
I know the pilot is supposed to like lay out the groundwork. Really, what groundwork was there for this series? I mean, yeah, they introduced the main characters. They introduced the backstory with how Rick Steadman knew Willem Boyd. But really, what would the next step be? What would be in episode 1 that you could build off of this?
I'm guessing maybe they would introduce Axel in the series.
Yeah.
Or maybe even the kid.
Or maybe Willem's job as an architect.
But again, what else could you develop off of this? If you even wanted to get, let's say, 13 weeks out of this, I don't see enough meat here to get 13 episodes.
Like, yeah, it's like, okay, I look at this show and I think to myself, what are the questions that you have to have an answer for in the pilot is, where are you going with this?
Yeah, and they just didn't know where they're going, I don't think.
And it's sort of weird because Robert Joy was in the play. I mean, if anybody would know where he's going with this...
It would be Robert Joy.
It would be Robert Joy, yes.
Yeah. Also, I think we should add, there may have been a little bit of controversy at the end of this pilot for 2 reasons. Well, one really isn't a controversy, but you could tell that Rick Steadman was making his home. He pulls out a tambourine and gives it a little rattle like you heard in the opening credits.
Uh-huh.
But also, there were some comments made by Willem at some point, which makes me believe he may be either atheist or agnostic, and you have Rick Steadman pull out of his like steamer trunk a copy of the Bible, and he gives it to Willem. And there's that sort of like freezes the action. It's like, okay, now it's not funny anymore. Now it's like
awkward. It went from funny to awkward.
To say the least, awkward. I mean, that wouldn't really be my reaction if I was in that situation. Oh, here, let me pull out a Bible and sort of give him the hint. You need a little bit of God in your life.
And the thing of it is, if you look very carefully, what does Rick kind of sort of look like?
Are you going to say like a Jehovah's Witness or something?
I was going to say...
Is it religious? Let's say that.
He looks like a missionary.
Okay, I can buy it.
So I can totally see the sort of controversy there.
Yeah. And that's basically how the pilot ends is Rick has his steamer trunk open. He's setting up his space, pulling out his property. He gives the Bible to Willem. And right at the end, he pulls out his tambourine and gives a little rattle. Again, it just seems that, Yeah, for a pilot, there wasn't much development, but also at the same point, it leaves me scratching my head as to what could they have done with this? How could they have gotten 6 episodes out of this? Not even 13 at this point. 6. It's just, and also it just, again, didn't come across as funny.
Yeah, it was stage play funny, and it was not sitcom funny. It didn't deliver the goods, basically.
One thing we haven't mentioned up to this point regarding this pilot, we said it was recorded in 1989. We didn't say when it aired. How long did they sit on this?
Greg?
It aired March 2nd, 1996. Now, I have a theory about why this aired on March 2nd, 1996. Now, March 2nd, 1996 was a Saturday. What would NBC be airing in the afternoon in 1996?
In March of 1996.
On a Saturday.
On a Saturday. Baseball.
No, they'd be in spring training. NBC still did have half of baseball, but because at this point Fox had taken ABC's portion of the MLB contract, but no, they wouldn't be airing baseball at this time. What would they be airing?
Not the NBA, because that would be on Sundays.
You sure? Because I thought they aired NBA games on Saturday.
I pretty much remember NBA games airing on Sundays. I could be wrong. I thought Saturday was more of like a sports world type of day.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe it would be basketball. I don't know if NBC Sports World was, maybe it was long gone, but I don't know. My best guess is they had a sporting event in the afternoon. And
some sort of sporting event.
Sort of sporting event. And they had this as a placeholder on Saturday. And in case, like, it overran or something, the sporting event, they'd be like, we're not going to air this. Because this is like a 7-year-old pilot. And then they didn't get an overrun. They were like, okay, I guess we have to air it then.
So you think they were sort of contractually obligated to air this pilot? Because ultimately, they did help produce it.
Yes.
It was produced in-house, so.
Yeah. Well, the thing that shocked me when I first aired it was I was watching it, and then it was last year when I watched this. I watched it to the end, and then you get the NBC split screen credits. I'm like, wait a minute. NBC didn't start doing split screen credits until, like, what, 94?
1994?
Yeah, 1994-ish. And then I see, on the split screen, there's a bit with Phil Hartman from Saturday Night Live, and it says Saturday Night Live 1993. And I'm like, what? They aired this, like, years later?
Yeah, I mean, you could tell it was years later because you see the NBC bug appear in the lower right-hand corner.
Well, and at the end it says you could watch Phil Hartman as Bill McNeil on News Radio. I'm like, yeah, I would have rather
1994.
watched 1994 with the credits.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I would have much rather have watched News Radio than this. Oh, and by the way, looking at the credits, I noticed a name that's very familiar in the credits. Do you know who the associate director of the Nerd was?
Don Barnhart?
Yes, Don Barnhart!
Who directed almost every episode of Saved by the Bell?
Yes, that Don Barnhart.
You know what? You beat me to it.
Yes. Okay, so I mentioned that there's a twist in the play.
There is a twist in the play.
All right, so let me get back to the play here. Now, in the play, what Willem and Tansy never learn is that Rick Steadman is not actually Rick Steadman.
Oh?
The intruder is actually an actor named Kemp Hall who was persuaded by Axel to impersonate Rick Steadman in order to make Willem understand his real priorities. Kemp, playing the nerd, drives Willem almost to comical violence as he becomes increasingly impossible to live with. Kemp has also, in the character of a man named Red Graham, been leaving phone messages for Willem, asking him to build a housing estate in Alexandria, Virginia. Axel points out to Willem that it is very close to Washington, D.C., and therefore very close to where Tansy is moving. At the end of the play, Willem finally finds what Tansy calls the gumption to order Rick out of his home. He declares that he will leave for Alexandria the next day and court Tansy till she cracks. Tansy agrees that it is a good plan, and the two of them go out for some dinner. Axel is alone in the room and calls Kemp to say, "I think we did it, babe. I think 100%. Kemp joins him, no longer the klutzy Rick, now an urban, intelligent man. Kemp wonders what the real Rick Stedman is like, and Axel says, "Nice fellow, probably." Kemp, who has made Willem's life hell for weeks, says, "Not a bad fellow, your friend Willem." Axel provides the theme of the play when he replies, "He's all right. He just needs to have his life interfered with a little. That's all."
That's it?
Yep, that's the play. If this had somehow gone to series, it would turn out that Rick Stedman was not actually Rick Stedman? Maybe?
Possibly?
Okay, maybe you have a little bit of character development.
Here's the thing. You have to give some sort of idea. You have to drop in little hints or two. We didn't really get that in this pilot.
Well, it's a pilot.
But the pilot has to set the stage for the series to come.
Yeah, but I
If
know,
that
but
is part of the series, then
well, they could always add it in reshoots or something if it got picked up.
yeah. But I guess they didn't have anywhere to go with this because they didn't air it for like 7 years.
Yeah.
Oh, I should add one more thing. Another big name that we haven't mentioned yet. The director of this show,
Yeah.
James Burrows.
That James Burrows?
That James Burrows.
Yes. We're talking about Cheers, Frasier, Taxi, Will and Grace. Yes, that James Burrows.
Charles Burrows. So I'm like, yeah, that James Burrows.
Yeah, legend.
Incredible.
And he directed this.
And he directed this, yes.
And Don Barnhart was the associate director.
Which it kind of sort of got, now that you think about it.
Well, they can't all be home runs.
No. Well, what do we have to say about the pilot for the nerd?
What can we say about this series except the nerd? It was almost a thing on TV.
But it was a thing on TV because it actually aired.
So in this case, this pilot was a thing on TV.
Yes.
Sad, wasn't it?
Yeah. But before we leave for this episode, I just want to mention, as I mentioned in the cold open in episode 149, I mentioned a good friend of mine, Blade Braxton of WrestleCrap.com. He unfortunately passed away last Sunday, and we want to send our condolences out to his family and friends. But I figured in honor of my friend Blade, one of his recurring segments on WrestleCrap Radio was the WrestleCrap.com haiku. So I'm debuting a new segment for you guys here on It Was a Thing on TV. Mike, play the music. Okay, guys. This is a new segment. 17 syllables about something on It Was a Thing on TV. And I figured, in honor of Blade, it would be perfect for this episode. Guys, are you ready for this haiku?
I don't know if I'm ready. I may need to get some handkerchiefs or something.
Mike, are you ready for this?
I can't wait.
Okay, here we go. The Nerd Pilot aired. Where was this awfulness found? Littlefield's closet.
Oh my gosh.
Good night, folks. Wow!
Good night, folks.
It's time for your favorite high school game show, Geek, Dweeb, or Spaz.
Now let's meet our third geek, dweeb, or spaz, Doreen Farbin.
Doreen is a geeky dweeb.
Hi, guys.
Serena!
Doreen is a geeky dweeb.
That's right! That's right!
Oh, the nerd. The nerd. Well, the less said about that show, the better. So let's get to talking about what's going on the Place to Be Nation Pop Experience right now on episode 7 of PTBN Trivia Night. Hosted by Andy Afferton and myself, Greg Diener, competed against Matt Souza and Mike Valenti to see who was all that in a bag of chips when it comes to 90s trivia. Spoilers, I'm not going to tell you how I do. You have to watch the episode. Well, not watch because it's not a video podcast, but listen to the episode to find out how I did. But Matt was really great on that episode, Matt, and you were terrific. Okay, on the latest episode of Making Mount Rushmore, Steve Riddle, Ray Carcillo, and Ben Locke share which comedy cartoon series and action cartoon series are on their respective Mount Rushmores. On the latest Pop Goes to the Couch, covering Falcon and the Winter Soldier with Tim Capel, Sean Kidd, Scott Shiflett, and Andy Afferton, they continue with a review of episode 3 of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I suspect, as I'm recording this, episode 4 just dropped, and they're going to probably have episode 4 ready soon, and I gotta say, that ending in episode 4... you know what I'm talking about, that particular scene at the end. Ooh, yeah, don't ever do a bad thing where there's cameras, phones around. Ooh. Oh, and another show I'm involved right now, Mighty Ducks Game Changers on Pop Goes to the Couch. James Grunberg and myself, we reviewed and broke down Season 1, Episode 3, Breakaway, and a spoiler-filled discussion as we discussed the plot elements, our favorite moments, and as we predicted what's going to happen in the rest of the series. And also, Telly and T returned with Miranda and Ben having a spot of tea to discuss WandaVision. Well, on a episode next week, we sort of try to discuss the difference between tea and dinner, and it's just gonna come up soon at some point. Well, we got those terrific shows here on the PTVN Pop Experience, but be sure to check out the PTVN Wrestling Network, which includes a dive into topics running the gamut from the days WWE through yesteryear. The feed includes Place to Be Podcast, Main Event, Jenny and the Gems, Body Pressure Luck, PTV NXT, the NWA Saturday Special, NWA Crack and Roll, Chicken Salad, the Special Relations Podcast, Highway to the Impact Zone, and so much more. Subscribe today. And while you're at it, subscribe to Jennifer Smith's The Jenny Position feed as well. She has many great podcasts on her feed, and it is the home of Geek and Sassy, Talking Pop, Freak Out Driving, The Journey Through Infinity, Telling Stories, the Brother Sister Rewatch Podcast. You heard about Pluto, Bianca's First Time, and more. Also, check out the North-South Connection, which is brought to you by JT Visero, Chad Campbell, Aaron George. That's the home for Wrestling Warzone, Nodes Board, The Extreme 3-Way Dance, The Ruthlessly Aggressive Podcast, Carolina Dreaming, Shrink Wrapped, Jeff Learns Wrestling, and more. Also, Glenn and Scott Butler, they are continuing their spectacular journey through music, films, and more on the Non-Toxic Fanboys podcast, where they try to enjoy the things they love. Find them at Non-Toxic Fanboys on Twitter, nontoxicfanboys.com, and subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Join the Rejuvenated Place to Be discussion group on Facebook. Go to Facebook, look up Place to Be, and request an invite. And discussions and fun with wrestling, movies, tournaments, and all forms of pop culture. We have such great times on the Facebook feed. It's great. And also, you know what else is great? The 2021 Stretch Project, which determines the greatest NWA WCW wrestler of all time. You can go to facebook.com/GWCW matches and join the group and discuss your nominees. And also, be sure not to forget to check out PlaceToBeNation.com each and every day. We have new voices, fresh takes, bringing you articles on topics in the worlds of wrestling, sports, and pop culture, which include Trent's SmackDown on Fox Report, Steve Riddle's Wonderful World of Disney Movie Reviews, Paulie's Perspective, and Matt's live-action Disney movie reviews. And of course, if you're doing online shopping at Amazon.com, you can click on the Amazon banner on the right side of the PTBN homepage, or use www.placetobenation.com/Amazon. It'll take you right to Amazon. It'll help PTBN at no cost to you. Okay, one more show to go, folks. Let's do it. Let's go into this discovery that Chica made. It's a 2006 pilot from the Sci-Fi Channel. And it stars Paul Giamatti voicing a giant screw-on head, which is called The Amazing Screw-On Head. So let's go to Chico as he talks about what the deal with this series is. Let's do it!
Episode 152, submission number 1870. The Amazing Screw-On Head. The Amazing Screw-On Head was a pilot commissioned by Sci-Fi in 2006.
There are two histories, one that is told and one that isn't. I, Abraham Lincoln, do order that America's strangest, most secret histories will only be recorded in one book. These are the adventures of the Amazing Screw-On Head.
So, let's talk about the early to mid-2000s for a second. There are two things that were starting to become really, really big in the early to mid-2000s. The first one was the adult cartoon, because Family Guy was starting to become, well, they were starting to refine Family Guy thanks to the DVDs.
Yep, because they would have just relaunched it on Fox in 2005. And then, of course, you had American Dad premiering that same year.
Yep, that is correct. The second thing that came into prominence in the early to mid-2000s, revisionist or historical fiction. Like you had Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. So, who would get an idea like this?
Who?
Would you believe the person who created Hellboy? Which is another thing that was really big in the early to mid-2000s.
Oh yeah, that was a big movie, Hellboy.
Hellboy was an incredible movie.
Ron Perlman, come on!
Yeah, he made that role.
Yeah, he made it just like Tony Shalhoub made Wings.
Love Wings!
Hey Mike, did you know I love Wings? He just walked away.
Mike, what's wrong with Wings? But the creator of Hellboy, a guy by the name of Mike Mignola, he also had another sort of underground comic book that he was working on.
What?
Another underground comic book.
He had another one?
He did.
Oh, okay.
He had another sort of project he was working on, and he got the idea when he was growing up with action figures, believe it or not. Particularly the Batman action figures.
Wait, what specific Batman action figures? Are we talking Mego? Are we talking 1989 Toy Biz?
We're talking about the mid-90s to mid-2000s Toy Biz ones.
No. You mean the ones by Kenner, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they had the blank sort of...
Yeah, because I think Toy Biz only had them for like the 89 movie.
Okay. So it would be the Kenner ones, because it would be blank Batman or blank Batman. It was basically the same figures with different paint jobs. So Mike Mignola imagined a robot with a head that screwed onto different bodies to suit the occasion. And he turned this idea into a comic book.
So this character is a real-life custom figure.
Yes, he's a real-life custom figures that he could screw his head onto any robotic body, and that would be, his sort of ability. But aside from that, he was just a head.
What does everybody want?
But he wasn't just any head. He was a cyborg that lived during the Lincoln administration.
Whoa!
And he was at the president's beck and call.
Oh my God. So not only did Abraham Lincoln have Desmond Pfeiffer, he also had a robot who could screw his head onto any robotic body. Mike, isn't that amazing?
Oh, don't drag me into this when you mention Desmond. It's Desmond Pfeiffer, not Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer.
That's how they said it in the Clerks animated series.
Oh, jeez. Are we talking about Clerks again? I thought we were gonna stop doing that. Unless we're actually going to talk about the animated series.
We'll talk about the animated series at one point. It's on DVD, and I also got to find that one point where Regis, before Clerks airs on Millionaire, says, "Stay tuned for Clerks."
We'll find that eventually.
Oh, of course. So Head was at the president's beck and call, obviously. But he also had an assistant by the name of Mr. Groin. And his dog, Mr. Dog.
His dog is named Mr. Dog.
Yeah.
Why did he name his dog Mr. Dog?
Because he's a dog, obviously.
I get that, but why would he pick an unimaginative name like Mr. Dog?
I have no idea. Everything Screw-On Head did was in the interest of America, and also the interest of public security, or I guess what would pass for Homeland Security in the mid-1800s.
Yeah, specifically the early to mid-1860s.
Yes. Now, here's the story, and it's also the story of the pilot. Screw-On Head, as we said, was an agent of President Abraham Lincoln, who summons him to track down Emperor Zombie, an undead occultist, and originally a groundskeeper at Hyde Park, and Screw-On Head's original manservant.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, Zombie and his henchman, the vampire madam named Patience, and his scientist, Dr. Snap, have stolen an ancient manuscript. And the mystery is, why would you steal something that you cannot read? Well, it just so happens that this manuscript would allow whoever possesses it access to the Temple of Gung, who was a warlord who nearly conquered the world over 10,000 years ago with supernatural powers gained from a fabulous melon-sized jewel. Now, once they discover the jewel, it turns out to be a turnip. But not just any turnip. It is a turnip with a parallel universe trapped inside of it. Emperor Zombie opens up the turnip, and it unleashes sort of a demigorgon, demigod sort of thing.
Yeah, something like that.
That Head manages to beat in combat when he screws himself onto a spider body.
Wow.
So once Head manages to summon him back into the turnip, it sort of unleashes a chaotic failure into the temple. And who should save Head but Gung? And this is right as Head's sort of spider body imprisons Emperor Zombie into the depths below. But this isn't the end.
No?
Nope, this is not the end. In congratulating Head on a job well done, Head tells the president that there are certain threats that America was built upon. And the only way that he can stop the Confederates from discovering these threats and using them to their advantage was to take control of the lands west of the Mississippi for himself. And so it ends with Lincoln signing the Homestead Act.
So that's how it was signed.
Yep. It wasn't so much for manifest destiny, it was to make the world safe for living humans.
And that's the amazing Screw-On Head.
Yep, and supposedly had both the comic or the television series gone on past that, I'm guessing they would sort of do a monster of the day or threat of the day, sort of like a Supernatural meets DuckTales sort of situation.
Something like that.
But basically, it ended with Head saying, "We're coming for you, America." Oh, you know what? I'll just let Head say it because he says it so much better than I am.
We're coming for you, America!
And by the way, we didn't even talk about the voice cast for this.
No, all of this has been sort of story because it's a very interesting story, I thought.
Yes.
This very interesting story also has an incredible cast behind it.
Yes.
Okay. You know what? Let's go over the main characters here. Head was played by Paul Giamatti.
Yes, that Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, I don't even have to go over his IMDb because all I have to say is that Paul Giamatti.
And hey, we'll be talking about him in Into the Spidey movieverse because he's in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 as Rhino.
Mm-hmm.
And really, this is probably at his biggest point, just a couple of years after Sideways when he made his big break.
So he would be doing, well, pretty much anything at this point.
He'd be doing what he wants.
But playing the voice of Emperor Zombie.
Oh boy.
David Hyde Pierce.
And all we can say is, yes, that David Hyde Pierce.
Yup, Niles.
Frasier's little brother Niles. Playing Mr. Groin, Screw-On Head's manservant, Patton Oswalt.
And this would be like right before Ratatouille.
Right before Ratatouille.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is Patton freaking Oswalt can do any freaking thing he wants.
You can pretty much say that about almost everybody in this cast.
Mm-hmm. Including the voice of President Abraham Lincoln, legendary voice actor Corey Burton, who, let's see, DuckTales, original and reboot, the Crash Bandicoot series, Star Wars, The Clone Wars.
Oh, who does he play in Star Wars, The Clone Wars?
He plays Count Dooku, Cad Bane, and Nick's Card.
Okay, yeah, I can see him doing a good Christopher Lee impression.
Star Wars Rebels, where he played Gobi Glee. Disney Infinity 3.0, where he played Cad Bane.
And a bunch of other stuff.
But and Jaga in the reboot series of Thundercats. Like I said, if we were to go over everything he's done, we would be here forever. So yeah, suffice it to say, Corey Burton, legendary voice actor. And then playing Patience the Vampire, Molly Shannon.
Oh, Molly Shannon.
Superstar.
Oh, yeah, and we'll also be talking about her if we ever do another Lost in Translation week. Because, Mike...
Yeah?
She was in the American version of Kath and Kim.
Yes, she was!
Oh, there will be another Lost in Translation week.
Oh, yeah, we need to talk about Kath and Kim, because there's actually a decent Australian series.
In fact, I'm going to go ahead and plug that on the schedule.
Yeah, you got to find a week where...
I will find a week for both Kath and Kim and the bad American dubbing episode of Power Rangers Dino Thunder.
Yeah, put that...
I'll get it next March. Maybe we'll make that an annual...
No, because March...
It can't be next March because... Oh, wait,
there is an open week in March.
There's an open week in March. I'm on it.
Yeah, because we're having a theme for Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah.
To quote River Song, spoilers.
Okay, and rounding out the cast is somebody who we will talk about later on this year, Greg.
Yeah?
Mindy Sterling.
Oh, yeah, Mindy Sterling. She was in Austin Powers, of course.
Yes, she was Frau Forbissima in Austin Powers. She was also one of the lunch ladies in Saved by the Bell, the college years, if you remember.
What?
Oh, yes! Yes, I remember that, yes!
See, Mike remembers it.
I don't think it was a cafeteria lady more than she was working.
She worked at the She worked at the diner in the Union at California University.
She wasn't a cafeteria worker. She was at the place where I think Screech was a manager at one point.
At one point, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hope that there's a scene of her with Bob Golick.
Yeah, there is.
Oh, yes!
Oh, yes.
Yes!
I'm pretty sure that now, mind you, within the last like 3 months, 2 months, I believe is E, and also I think IFC reran Saved by the Bell, the college years, and I caught most of the episodes, and I did see Mindy Sterling, and I'm pretty sure Bob Golick entered the diner in that episode.
Oh, yes. Because we all love Bob Golick on this podcast.
We do.
Bob Golick from the same little suburb that I live in.
Yeah.
Haven't seen him around town, but I know he makes appearances in the area.
And he has a great starting lineup figure, too.
Oh, everything about Bob Golick is great.
Yep. Except his brother. Anyway.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, I like him better than Mike Greenberg, I'll say that much.
True. True. So that was an incredibly stellar cast for this sort of project that was worked on for sci-fi. And it had an incredibly stellar writer as well. You had Brian Fuller heading up the whole thing.
What would he be best known for?
Brian Fuller is sort of like known for macabre, having this macabre sort of funny fixation with death. He did Dead Like Me. He did Pushing Daisies, which we need to talk about. Sometime.
I think because isn't he also well known for like
Wonderfalls?
dropping? Yeah, isn't he also well known though for like dropping out a series also?
Yeah, he did 6 scripts of American Gods before he dropped out of that.
Oh.
Well, he wrote 6 episodes of American Gods before he dropped out of it. And he wrote 7 episodes of Star Trek Discovery.
And
he
dropped...
wrote 1 episode of Star Trek Discovery. Oh, sorry, he wrote 3 episodes. It was a number between 1 and 5, guys. He wrote that many episodes of Star Trek Discovery before dropping out.
He was like, "No, I'm done. I don't want to do this."
And this will not be the first time that Brian Fuller comes up in Pilot Month.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Oh, and wasn't this also produced by Harmony Gold?
Yes.
Now, they're very notorious, I've heard in the grapevine.
Talk to me about Harmony Gold.
I thought you knew about Harmony Gold.
I did know about Harmony Gold only because I am a big fan of Robotech, and they sort of did a really... They tried to marry 3 unrelated TV shows under the Robotech banner. For some reason it worked, but yeah, Harmony Gold is just... It has this sort of reputation, and I guess the reputation is for really bad dubbing.
Oh, okay, so they're like for kids.
Yeah, well, they did make Shaka Zulu.
Okay.
The miniseries.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
Shaka Zulu, miniseries, mid-80s.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
But aside from that, Harmony Gold also have an extensive history of legal troubles.
Yeah, that's basically what I know them for. Whenever I hear them on like a podcast, people bitch about them.
Yeah, federal agents raided Frank Agrama, who is the founder of Harmony Gold, on tax fraud in Italy.
Oh.
And embezzlement. And false accounting investigation.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Studying back to Silvio Berlusconi.
Oh, okay.
Hashtag bunga bunga.
Bunga bunga.
And in 2012, Agrama was convicted after a lengthy trial involving the buying and selling of U.S. firm rights to the Mediaset media company, who owned the Harmony Gold Library at the time. He was accepted from a direct imprisonment and served no actual jail time on account of him being 70. But they charged Agrama in a trial over tax fraud, embezzlement, and false accounting at Mediaset. And ultimately, and getting back to Macross, Harmony Gold owns the copyright, at least partly, in the U.S. for the mecca of Macross, and Southern Cross and most PETA, which have been used to create the Robotech franchise. And of course, FASA, who created the Battletech franchise, was licensed directly from the Japanese producers of Macross with overlapping rights, not being realized for nearly a decade. Harmony Gold sued FASA, and those designs were removed from the game. So basically, anything relating to mecha in the US, Harmony Gold will sue you for.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. And even if you're not in the US, they'll find you and they will sue you as well, because Macross was ultimately licensed from Tatsunoko, who, if you remember, produced the original Go Go Go, aka Speed Racer. But Studio New, the creators of that series, controlled the intellectual property of Macross.
Oh.
In 2003, a ruling in the Tokyo District Court ruled that Tatsunoko Production had the authorship rights to the franchise, and this was against the 2002 ruling, where the design of one of their mecha, the Valkyrie, was awarded to Studio New. It does not allow them to control intellectual property, only the international distribution outside Japan.
Okay.
So in November 2016, Harmony Gold initiated arbitration against Tatsunoko, to which Tatsunoko responded with counterclaims. Ultimately, Harmony Gold was reported to have held several trademarks related to Macross, and its trademark for the Macross series was renewed on December 26, 2012, with the expiration date set to take place in 2022. There is more, but basically, Harmony Gold owns Mecha as we know it until Christmas of 2022.
Well, we better hope they don't find this podcast.
All we're saying is, we are not reporting anything that isn't already out there.
Yeah, so don't sue us, Harmony Gold.
Yeah. So getting back to The Amazing Screw-On Head, it had all of these things going for it. An incredible storyline, an incredible writer, an incredible cast, and Sci-Fi chose to release it on their website, sci-fi.com, instead of Sci-Fi proper. So the question now becomes, what happened to this show? I mean, was it a case of... I can't believe I'm about to make this joke. Was it a case of this show pretty much being ahead of its time?
Well, yeah, because don't you have stuff like Rick and Morty, like, now?
Yeah.
So I guess maybe the world wasn't ready for this type of show?
Yeah, I guess you could say this show was simply ahead of its time.
Okay, I need to chime in, especially after that line. Maybe it's just me. I don't see much of Rick and Morty in The Amazing Screw-On Head.
No, well, you wouldn't, because it's not so much an idea. It is an idea more than like a direct sort of relationship. It's the idea of surrealist, almost absurdist comedy.
Yeah, that's basically what it is.
Yeah, because, again, this was like in the area of 2006 before it became popular to be that weird. Since then, you had films like The Leica Library.
Yeah,
Coraline,
The Leica Library, like
Paranorman.
Coraline.
Paranorman.
Paranorman's great.
Paranorman's awesome. And you have TV shows like Rick and Morty, Solar Opposites, which, by the way, dropped season 2 on Hulu. So yeah, I mean, if you were to try Amazing Screw-On Head on a proper network like an Adult Swim or a streaming outlet, I honestly think it could succeed.
Yeah, but the problem is, it was commissioned by Sci-Fi. And Sci-Fi at this time was, I think, they were just beginning the process of transferring to spelling their name with Y's.
Well, the copyright card at the end of the episode was Sci-Fi. Was
spelled,
Sci-Fi.
spelled SCI/FI.
Yeah, and we all know nobody is going to admit to this, but we all know the reason why they changed the name from sci-fi to SYFY sci-fi was that it was something that NBC Universal could trademark.
Yeah.
They wanted to make money off of the sci-fi name.
And also at this time in 2006, wasn't at this point Sci-Fi had just started airing ECW?
They started airing ECW, and they were almost to the point. No, they would still be airing yearly delayed episodes of Doctor Who.
Yeah. For some reason, they aired Doctor Who on a 1-year delay.
Yeah.
This was before BBC America got the US rights.
And started airing same-day rights, and the world was better off for it.
The world was much better off. It was dark days where you had to go to torrent sites. You had to go to the dreaded torrent sites and try to download Doctor Who, and you had to wait probably like 8 hours for it to finish downloading.
Yep.
I'm not saying I did that. I know some people who did that.
Greg is innocent, y'all. Greg is innocent.
I did not. I've heard stories.
But when the announcement came down from BBC America, this year, Christmas won't be late. By the way, nice reference to the Alvin and the Chipmunks song there. It was the best day ever, I think.
Yeah, it was. But the amazing screw-on head.
What can I say except it was almost a thing on TV.
It was.
And I've said this before, the story doesn't end there.
Oh. I know it's coming.
As soon as I can find it.
It's not the haiku.
No. Sadly, I don't have your mad haiku skills, Greg.
No.
But I do have this. Let's go shopping!
Okay. This.
All right. Now, the story of the Amazing Screw-On Head was made into a book and published as a compilation called The Amazing Screw-On Head and Other Curious Objects. It was written, of course, by Mike Mignola, and it was released as The Amazing Screw-On Head and Other Curious Objects. And it is actually available new on eBay.
Okay.
So, how much for this thing?
Well, who's starting?
Because let me tell you everything that comes with it right now. The story of Screw-On Head and other stories by Mike Mignola. Cover has no wear, and it has the dust jacket. Published in 2010 by Dark Horse Comics.
All right. Okay. So who's starting first?
Greg, why don't you start first?
Okay, so it's a graphic novel.
It's a graphic novel, yes.
$25.
$25. Mike.
$29.95.
Okay, the actual buy it now price for The Amazing Screw-On Head and Other Curious Objects graphic novel anthology is... Oh, break out the checkbooks at $63.
I knew it was going to be more than 25. I just didn't want to go too much higher.
Well, Mike, it got there in the end. And since you're not a big fan of revisionist historical fiction, you can give it to a friend who is.
Greg, enjoy your book.
Oh, well, thank you.
Hey, Greg is a big fan. And I'll tell you something. Interesting little lighter note on this book here. Comic Book Resources says, if you read only one comic about severed robot heads fighting, I don't know, some damn thing or the other at Abraham Lincoln's behest, that comic should be The Amazing Screw-On Head. If you really want this book, though, do yourself a favor, go on Amazon and get it for $18. Because this guy, I'm sure he's a really good seller, but this guy is nuts. Or he's, trying to flip it for a profit or something. Not going to do that again. Anyway, so before we get the call from Abraham Lincoln to go fight crime and evil, undead or otherwise, why don't you check out our website, itwasathingontv.com, where you'll find all of our minisodes, all of our episodes, and all of our live shows, not to mention links to our socials. We're on all social media at It Was a Thing on TV, and of course, links to our good friends at Place to Be Nation, where Greg did a thing this last week.
Oh yeah! Thanks to good old Andy Afferton, I was a part of the Place to Be Nation Trivia Night, which you can find on the Place to Be Nation Pop Experience. I went up against Matt Souza and Mike Valenti to talk about 90s trivia, and I'm not going to spoil the result. You'll have to listen to it for yourself. But
I'm just going to say, I'm sure glad I didn't get that call, because I don't think they would host our weekly drops after that.
Well, considering we're still on after I did the episode, that probably gives you enough of a clue about how I did. But I won't say anything about it. You'll have to listen for yourself.
I will only say, Greg, do you feel like you did your best?
I feel like I did my best. Now,
that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Because when it's done, win or lose, you always did your best. Because inside you knew that one shining moment, you reached for the sky. One shining moment you knew. One shining moment you're willing to try. One shining moment you knew.
You brought me to tears, man.
And Mike's just like, the hell is he talking about?
Worst acting ever.
Okay, so what is on the docket? Because we're still in the midst of pilot month, and what do we have next week?
Well, we're going to take a detour from pilot month next week for the first episode. It's actually going to be the second episode next week, but there's a reason why it's the second episode next week on Thursday. Because there's a certain historical anniversary next week. I don't know what that entails, Chico. Oh, I see what you did there.
Okay.
Yeah. So next week we'll be talking about something related to this historical event. And by the way, you can get this on Blu-ray and DVD right now. KinoWarber.com. Just saying.
Yep. And our second episode,
which is actually the first episode next week,
as we go back into pilot month, is a Fast and Furious quiz show that sort of looks like the love child between Jeopardy and Blockbusters and Split Second. They basically had a quiz show three-way.
Yeah, Mike, you're excited for this pilot.
Yes, I'm very excited for this pilot.
Yes. Did we mention Peter Tamarkin is involved? Because that's important.
Yes, it's very important to mention that Peter Tamarkin was involved in this pilot.
Peter Tamarkin hosting a quiz show that looks like the love child between an orgy among Blockbusters, Jeopardy, and Split Second.
So how did this not get picked up?
I guess we're going to have to find out before the next installment of It Was a Thing on TV. Thanks for listening.
Wow!
Yes, it's as I always say. All really intelligent people should be cremated for reasons of public safety.
Better late than never, I say.
Being too familiar.